How long does it take for 5-amino-1-MQ to work? Every marketing claim says you get results in 3 days, your money back, or guaranteed you're going to jump twice as high as you could before. But this is not what this video is about, because I want to talk to you about the cellular pathways, because your signaling in your body is what really is going to make the difference between a molecule like 5-amino-1-MQ working, or MOD-SC, or SS31, or tesamorelin, or a GLP-1. There's a big difference in what is the environment like. And so 5-amino-1-MQ, we're going to dive into exactly how long it takes to work, but we're going to talk about what you can do on your end so that you can increase your body's own NAD production, because after all, that's one of the core functions of 5-amino-1-MQ. And so this is not about forcing a quick caloric deficit or stimulating your adrenal glands. There's not anything stimulatory here. But today I'm going to walk you through the actual research timeline and the biological reason why each phase takes as long as it does, and why you don't want to be using this peptide for too long. And there are some side effects of inhibiting NNMT for long periods of time. And so we're going to talk to you about this and talk to you about what to happen if you feel like your protocol is not working, and what to do if it is working so you keep the momentum going. So I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. Really appreciate you being on this channel, because I make these videos because a lot of people out there are confused. They're overwhelmed. They don't know what to look for when it comes to peptide therapy. I've been obsessed with peptides for over a decade. My clinic, Ageless Future, we only work with compounding pharmacies, 503A, 503B, licensed, FDA-registered pharmacies. And we found enormous benefits when we can stack the right peptides based on your blood labs. And so 5-amino-1-MQ, this has been something that I've explored over the last, since about 2016, 2017, about 9 years. And so what this peptide does, well, first of all, it's not a peptide technically, it's a small molecule. But it was discovered out of the University of San Antonio, Texas, when they were looking for a single molecule that would turn off this pathway called NNMT. And NNMT inhibition was the big problem, because they couldn't find a molecule. They discovered this pathway back in the 50s, and they realized that when this pathway was expressed, people had an accumulation of visceral fat and became obese and metabolically inflexible. They couldn't get energy from their food. And they also noticed that without this pathway, with this pathway being overexpressed, the cellular NAD levels dropped. And that affected their cognitive capabilities, it affected their muscle and their cardiovascular fitness. And so what they discovered is, as they landed on 5-amino-1-MQ, they found that, oh, this actually helps activate your body's own NAD salvage pathway. It activates SIRT1 and SIRT3, which in turn turns on this secondary energy source called AMPK. And now the body has a stronger signaling. That means if it has a stronger signaling on that AMPK pathway, you're going to have more energy. You're going to have better cellular clearance, better autophagy. You're also going to get better cellular reprogramming. And that was the exciting discovery. And now if we look at it, downstream, if we can build the substrates for adaptation, which is what NAD helps us to do. So if you think of NAD as going in through the electron transport chain, activates these sirtuins, and now you get this better DNA signaling so your cells can emit this pure signal. It's almost like when you have a really good conversation with your spouse and you guys were just on the same page about everything, or a coworker, or somebody who you really care about. It creates better relationships when you have great communication. Same thing in your body. When the cells can communicate, you're going to have better health. And so if you think of NAD, think of this at a baseline. What happens is, if that baseline starts to drop, you're not going to have this body composition that changes in a meaningful way. You could take maybe like a GLP-1 at a very high dose. You can lose the body weight, but you feel flat. Your energy levels just don't increase. You don't feel like working out. Yes, you're not eating food, and that may be one of the reasons, but 5-amino-1-MQ, what it does is it turns on NAD, so that you have this better signaling pathway. Now, what most people notice is the first couple of days, you're going to start on a lower dose. In the research, it's around 50 milligrams. You're taking about 50 milligrams once a day for about 7 days. And a lot of people start noticing a bit of an energy increase. And then 7 to 14 days, you want to increase the signaling. And that increase the signaling, now you notice more measurable changes. You're at about roughly 100 milligrams. And you'll start noticing that the SIRT1 activation also is more active, which turns on more PGC1 alpha. And that's the master transcription factor for mitochondrial biogenesis. And now that that PGC1 alpha gene is turned on, especially if you're using something like retatrutide with the glucagon, it also turns on PGC1 alpha. Now the energy levels start to shift pretty dramatically. And so, by the end of that 14-day cycle, what the studies show is that energy expenditure is going to increase by about 7% by that day 7, and then day 21 is about 15%. And your respiratory exchange ratio starts to shift, so the body uses a higher fraction of fat for fuel. Even at rest, the body weight divergent from controls didn't become statistically significant until about day 11. And that's when, dosing under these tightly controlled conditions, where they're increasing it. And once again, this is all on animal models, but, if you think about what happens after day 14, well, let's turn up the signal just a little bit. Now, some of you, once again, this is where working with a prescribing provider can help you understand if this is the proper cadence for you. Some of you may need to extend that beyond, but most of the time you increase up to about 150. And then once you get to that level, now you'll notice improved workout recovery, appetite reduction, because your fat oxidation is improving the satiety signaling, and your metabolic machinery is being upgraded. And so in the preclinical models, it shows a 3 to 5% reduction in adipose mass by day 28, accompanied by this fasting glucose and elevated SIRT1. So you have improved hemoglobin A1C and fasting glucose, elevated SIRT1 activity. It's pretty darn exciting. In 2019 Cell Reports, this foundational study on treated animals showed significantly reduced body weight and adipocyte size without changes in food intake. So they ate the same, but the fat cells became less and they burn more energy. In another study, they also looked at the type 2 diabetes, and they found that the adipocytes in these type 2 diabetic animals, they were smaller. Visceral fat also reduced, and they found that these animals have better contractility in their muscles, better insulin resistant, better cardiovascular responses. They also found, once again, that their fasting insulin, their hemoglobin A1C, that came down. Also in the study, what do you do after week 4? Well, typically in something like 5-AMINO-1-MQ, you don't want to stay on this more than about 60 days. 60 days is a good cycle, a couple times a year, because we don't have a lot of human data on it. But they found that after that week 4, now your body's in this more metabolically active state. And as long as you're exercising, you've got the good lifestyle around it, getting in the sauna, because heat shock proteins, you want to activate MOTS-C with 5-AMINO-1-MQ. You can also do a nasal NAD, and it's got a little bit of eucalyptus, some oxytocin, and NAD. And that activates the brain, so it can help facilitate that AMPK pathway. In the research models, they found that these animals, they continually had this 7 to 10% total body mass reduction again by week 8. And so they're seeing metabolic flexibility increase. The body could switch between carbohydrates and fat oxidation. Their glucose handling improved. And so these cycles are really important. And then you need to have a washout period. And once again, it depends on your provider, but they found in the animal models, 60 days, 90 days would be the longest cycle, with about a 30-day washout period. But they also found that these metabolic adaptations, that increase of SIRT1 and SIRT3, it led to long-term increasing of mitochondrial density, improved fatty oxidation capacity, and that persisted for about 2 to 4 weeks after the animals got off 5-AMINO-1-MQ. And so if this is something where you're like, wow, this sounds fascinating, well, it's not an FDA-approved therapy. You do want to work with a licensed provider to find out if this is right for you. And if you'd like to go deeper, go to agelessfuture.com, get your blood labs ran. Everything starts by getting the right tests. I'm Regan Archibald. Appreciate you being on the channel. Leave a comment. Let me know what you found with 5-AMINO-1-MQ or with any other peptides in your life.